From a cultural perspective, there's always days, always times that a culture can shift, a mindset can shift of somebody's thinking. And you're never going to get ahead of everything of this. But it talks about what I feel it comes down to is how open minded you are, right? So that's a growth or a fixed mindset. So I'm going to ask, Alana, is, part of one of the things you mentioned about when the acquisition took place. And an acquisition, I would say, is like two divorced families marrying, right? You have one style, you have another, and now you become one. And what style is the right way? Well, there's not a right or wrong. It's a collaborative one that works. That comes with tremendous amount of clarity around communication and making sure there's a clear understanding of what individuals need to expect and how are we doing that? Who owns that communication? And you had an open mind to it, you believe, but that was a choice. Your choice was what we would call a growth mindset. Because you easily could have said, hey, I don't like this. It's a bigger company. I'm going to get lost in the shuffle. Some of the team members are a bit toxic in insecurities of you maybe having this opportunity. And easily you could have bailed. That would have been the safer, easiest way. But you made a choice of a growth mindset. What's your point of view on the value of growth mindsets among your colleagues, and how do you cast the shadow to influence that in the way you operate that helps continue to build a culture of a growth mindset? Anything come to mind on with you with that, Alana?
Well, I think with the growth mindset comes lots of opportunity. You remain open-minded, so you're open to possibilities, seeking alternative solutions to problems. So it really creates this excellent environment for collaboration when you're looking to come up with a solution that will work for everyone. When it comes to fixed versus growth mindset, I think that as human beings, we want to adhere to one, but I think it's impossible to remain static, So at times we're pushed in ways that make us uncomfortable. Our boundaries may be bumped up against by any kind of piece of gravity that comes your way. Maybe some sort of trouble comes up or a challenge, and it makes you a little uncomfortable because you're not sure how to move forward with it. But I think that when we identify those moments when we are operating in that fixed mindset, we're learning more about what those boundaries mean to us. And I think it's the acknowledgement that we are temporarily in a fixed mindset that will help us move forward into something that's a little more growth oriented. So with the acquisition, I was looking for people who also had that growth mindset to kind of reiterate some of the things that I was thinking to help feel like I had more support, like Walter brought up, and just to make sure that we were all kind of moving in the same direction, which was forward.
Yeah. So again, I think what resonates with me in what you explained is that, one, we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So there's not a day that goes by that I think we all don't feel a slight, or if not more, being uncomfortable. I think there's not a day that goes by that in a moment we have a fixed mindset. So people look at it and say, no, I'm a growth mindset across the board. And the reality is you may absolutely have a growth mindset in creativity. You might have a growth mindset in tolerating challenges or addressing challenges. But you still could be a fixed mindset and a fixed mindset is if, and this happened to me recently, where our team, sales and marketing team, were asking to participate in something. And I've had experiences in this venue that really didn't bring an ROI to the table. And it didn't, I see the value of putting resources to this event, taking them out of the day-to-day, spending the dollars, and it really didn't bring a return. So I immediately was like, this really hasn't been worked out. It hasn't worked out in the past. So kudos to them. They came to me very prepared to explain why they felt why it was important and why it was important now. And after they gave me all the reasons, that's when I realized, well, wait a minute. If I'm supporting my team, this is the team that's coming to me and they're backing their thoughts on this. I have to kind of break from being a fixed mindset, even though I know for a fact I was 100% believe it's not going to really work out, because for years it didn't. So I said, no, I got to stop this. So I said, you know what? I support it. You gave me great reasons. I want them to know that I'm behind them at times. And then I knew that it might not work out, and I'm not coming back with, I told you so. If I'm in, and I'm not turning around going, I knew it, it wouldn't. No, we all win it together, and we get the challenges together, and we trip and fall together. Well, it ended up that it was really actually a very, very positive experience and a good success story. But I wanted to make sure the team knew and thank them for coaching and guiding me through that, because I was absolutely hell-bent on it, and they gave me good reasons. But I also wanted them to know, hey, thank you. That's showing as a leader vulnerability, right? We don't have all the answers. We don't know sometimes what tomorrow's going to bring. Our mistakes could be ones of where we had a blind spot, or we really believed something could work and it didn't, or we're just wrong. And it's okay. Leaders thinking this way and sharing it creates a culture in your team or in the organization to allow failure. We just don't want it to be catastrophic failures. We want the failures to learn from it, but did we really think it through? And then we know that, okay, we can't do that again, or what could we have done to make that work? That mindset is not by words, it's by your actions. So Walter, let me ask you, in your career, in your journey, have you been in situations where you believed in something and it didn't work out? And how did you handle owning it? And what was your approach on that? And what was the reaction of maybe your team or the surrounding colleagues of yours?
Michael, that's a great question. And as soon as you said that and listening to the conversation, I was thinking back throughout my career, and early on in my career as a people leader, I struggled in my ability to handle criticism or feedback. And that's something that over time I learned how to deal with, how to accept. And basically, I realized that when people are giving you constructive criticism, they're doing it because they care. They're not doing it because they want to take shots at you. And, over the last, I'll say probably 6-7 years, I've started doing my reviews with my staff. I do them as 360 reviews to give them the opportunity to help me help develop them and help them move forward. So it's something that I think we have to do with our team to help them get the comfort level to bring out more in our team. Now, to your point there, yeah, I failed. I have failed many a time in my career. Some of them have been minor, some have been major gaffes. I was working for a consultant company. I was one of their lead consultants. I was putting together a proposal for a client. I left out a very large line item in the proposal. The client signed it. We went to move forward. We realized we were off by about 30% on the proposal number. Had to go back to the client with, my tail between my legs and say, hey, this deal that looked really great to you, I messed up and I missed something. And the client wasn't too happy because it's a 30% bump, but it was what they should have paid. When it was all said and done, we ended up doing it at cost to make the client happy. And I learned from that, hey, it's better to measure twice and cut once than to just measure, cut, and say, oops. So it was something that I learned from. But the thing that really sticks in my mind on that situation was the reaction from my leader at when that happened. Was it wasn't like, hey, I hope you learn from this. Make sure you do this, this, this. It was that was a very stupid, careless mistake. Those aren't the words that are supportive and reinforcing. I'm strong-willed, so I could take those words and really grow from it, but not everyone has that type of intestinal fortitude to be able to use that and build from it. So it's really a matter of positioning words in a way that helps develop your team member when they make a mistake. So that's something that just immediately popped to mind when you brought that up. So
got it. And you know what? So couple of nuggets I pulled from that. Feedback, right? Someone looks at reads an email and or hears something negative to them. Again, you can't control the person who is giving you the advice or criticizing you, constructive or not. It's up to you in the moment. And this is where it takes a very strong, mindful approach. And you got to work on this. This is literally like, how do you become a better athlete? Is you practice. You know, how do you get an understanding on something? You read over and over again. You take more, I'd say, steps towards, you know, understanding and educating yourself. Well, in this situation, it's the same thing. So it's looking at it and saying, you know what? It's like watching a horror movie and shutting the volume off. It's not as scary. So you, in your mind, have to kind of tune out the noise and go into the feedback of the content that the person is saying, and then pull it back to yourself and saying, okay, is there truth to this? Like, forget the noise, forget the emotion, forget the capital letters you're reading, and just say, is that the case? So a strong leader might say to you that, you know, look, this was a really good lesson, but it was a costly one. So let's talk about what we learned from it. You know, these are situations where could we have cut that sooner, or could we have avoided it? And let's talk about how we could have done that, and what are you going to do moving forward? Now, that's the best way to say it, but in reality, 90% of the time, it's not said that way. It's the way you mentioned. How can you do that? Oh, I'm disappointed. Are you kidding me? In capital letters. So that then goes back to you, how you choose to receive the feedback. And that's really, really taking it to the next level, because you're not going to control everybody who's coming at you. So typically how people react, if someone pushes you, you push it back, right? That's our reaction. It goes the same way with this, but in this case, it's, hey, don't go to the violence back. You know, two wrongs don't make a right, you know, type of thing. Why don't you just take a step back and just go, okay, I have to process this. Now, this is very hard to do. And we all are human, where we have some days it comes a little easier, some days it's a little harder, and some days you lose it. But the more that you're aware, the more that you're having these conversations as leaders on your team, the more this then pulls down to where it cascades to where that is the culture. It's not acceptable to be, you know, pointing out just the negative. It's coachable moment, you know, unless you think the person really did it maliciously, well, then fire them or get them off your team or leave the company. But if there is positive intent, you believe, and you're genuinely staying open-minded to the situation, curious, open-minded, you have a better way of creating that. So it's good points and spot on in reference to that. And I think, you know, in our careers, you know, there's always days that you feel you kind of mastered things, and then, you know, something happens and you're like, school.